On episode 55 of my trip from New Zealand to Japan, I missed my flight. So after spending 7 days in Jakarta, where I essentially did nothing but stay in my hotel room because I actually needed to get healthy, it was time for me to go to my next stop, Singapore. So I decided to take a grab to the airport 6 hours before my flight and just relax until I could check in. Fast forward 3 hours of doing nothing at the airport, and I was finally able to check into my gate, but it was incredibly loud. So I went to the next gate over to get some work done, and I noticed that the gates didn't have the little televisions above them to tell you which flight is next to board and depart, which I had never seen before and didn't think too much of it, but in hindsight, I should have. I definitely should have. Eventually, 2 more hours pass, so I go over to my gate, which has a ton of people, and I get ready to board in 10 minutes, just as my boarding pass says. Well, 10 minutes go by, and nothing. Then 20 minutes go by, and then 30, and still nothing. So I start to panic a bit, and I go to the flight directory screen, which shows all the flights, and it says that my flight is still at the gate that I am at. So I go and talk to the ladies at the gate and ask them if I'm at the right spot, to which she looks at my boarding pass and goes, "Yup, you're okay." So I go and sit down, but something doesn't feel right, and then 10 minutes later, I go and ask again just to make sure, and she gives me the same answer, so I sit down again. But then I notice that the flight directory screen says last call, to which I start stressing out all over again. And I go back up to her and I'm like, why does it say that? To which she now even looks confused, and she asks her colleague, who says it's okay, but I'm not buying it. So I go to another AirAsia desk, which is way further away from my gate, and say, "Hey, where's my flight?" And they look at my boarding pass and go, "Oh yeah, your flight just left." And at this point, I just lost my shit. I'm like, what do you mean it just left? I've been here for 6 hours and asked them 3 times if I'm at the right gate, and they kept telling me yes. And apparently, at Jakarta Airport, it works differently than any other airport I've ever been to, because the AirAsia guys proceed to tell me that the women at the gate have no affiliation to AirAsia, and that they are just random airport workers who have no idea what's going on. Now, to their credit, apparently the gate changed to my flight after I got my boarding pass, and the airport did call my name on the intercom, but the intercom speakers suck, and also, to no fault of their own, they kept pronouncing my name along the lines of Loke instead of Luke, and then they just butchered my last name, so obviously it's not familiar to them, but also I didn't recognize it. However, if they had just updated the directory or had a screen at the gate like every other major airport, this wouldn't have been an issue. But I asked them about another flight, to which they told me that it was on me to get a new flight, and they escorted my ass out of the transit area where I had to buy a new flight with another airline for $160 and wait another 4 hours before I could board. So instead of getting to Singapore at 8:30 p.m. like I was supposed to, I got there at 1:30 a.m. So safe to say, I hate Jakarta Airport. Okay, bye.